foreign terrorism versus domestic terrorism. Let's talk about that when we come back. This is Rob Bell, and this is Rob's Rant. Foreign terrorism versus domestic terrorism. Of late, obviously, foreign terrorism has captured the news waves, especially with the events that occurred in Belgium in the last several days. And we have paid an inordinate amount of attention to that. We have focused a lot on what we feel are ISIS terroristic kind of events. And, you know, it has become an issue with the Muslim community, even to the degree that we have some presidential candidates wanting to get rid of folks who are Muslims who live in the United States and folks who they perceive as being a threat to our country over here in the U.S. But what I take issue with is the fact that, you know, although foreign terrorism is an issue, domestic terrorism is occurring every day in our communities, and nobody seems to be paying a whole hell of a lot of attention to that. And the thing about trying to be preventive as opposed to being reactive seems to be very prevalent with domestic terrorism. I want to concentrate on what's happening here in Philadelphia. Every day there is what I call a domestic terroristic event that occurs in Philadelphia. We have a murder. We are right now averaging a murder a day in Philadelphia. And over the weekend, it seems to get worse. Just recently, my wife informed me that there was a 2-year-old shot in the head. The other day, there was a 7-year-old that was shot outside of her house for simply standing there. She wasn't even involved. She got caught up in a drive-by. Last week, we had a gentleman come out on his porch and engage in a shootout in broad daylight in West Philadelphia while his mother, who works at night, was sleeping in the house. And when she heard the gunshots, got up, looked out her window, and saw her grandson out there shooting at guys that were shooting at him into her house. That is totally ridiculous. And so I applaud the efforts of us trying to do something about foreign terrorism, but we damn sure better start doing something about the domestic terrorism that's going on in our neighborhoods. It is not only happening here in Philadelphia, it is happening in every urban city in this country, and we are sleeping on that. Why? Nobody really cares about it because in more cases than not, it's occurring in the African American community. And I hate to make a race thing out of this, but as I've always said in all of my rants, race matters. But when it comes to what happens in our community, especially when it comes to crime, the expectation is, well, that's what happens in black neighborhoods. That's what happens in the ghetto. And nobody really is concerned or cares about that. The presidential candidates that are running for office, they never talk about that. They talk about all the other issues, but do they talk about what they can do in terms of what's happening in these urban neighborhoods and how people have to live and hear gunfire every night and are afraid to come out their house and don't even have the capacity to send their children outside to play? Look, it's a beautiful day out here, and I'll be willing to bet when we go home tonight, on the news, there will be some story of somebody getting shot in one of these neighborhoods in Philadelphia. It is getting ridiculous, and nobody seems to want to do anything about it. All the police do is react. They show up, take a report, and next thing we know, somebody either died, somebody got shot, and it's no goddamn big deal. Well, it better become a big deal, because as time goes on, it's going to get worse. And I'm at a quandary right now because I'm not even sure who I want to vote for, because these presidential candidates are not even talking my language. They're not even talking about what they want to do in my community, in my city. They're talking about all this other crap, but ain't nobody talking about and coming up with any solutions as to how they're going to deal with this crime issue in my community. Locking people up and throwing away the key is not the solution. They have to come up with some other viable solutions. We got all these powerful, Harvard, Yale, and Oxford people who are allegedly running this country, and you mean to tell me can't nobody come up with any viable solutions as to how we can help solve some of the crime issues in our community? It's damn ridiculous, and I'm tired of it. This is Rob Bell, and this is Rob Rant.